October 31st. I'm going to be reviewing my first ever comic book review. I'm not sure how audiences are going to respond, but I'll just be here in the shadows. I am the shadows, and I have no idea where I'm going with this. I guess it's just my way of trying to interpret the Batman movie.
Hello everyone, it is Briximus Prime, back for another video, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the McFarlane Toys Batman Page Punchers. Now, specifically, I'm taking a look at the Page Puncher from Wave 1, which includes Batman. Basically, I'm just going to be going over the little figure included, as well as the comic book included, just so that everyone is aware that, what kind of comic you're getting with this, and also what's the quality of McFarlane Toys. So anyway, let's just get right on into the video by starting with this packaging. Now, the Page Punchers here come in this nice plastic clamshell here, and the reason why I say it's really nice to have it is because this clamshell really does open up the opportunity to keep your comic books inside all mint and fresh and be able to display it like this on the wall. Like, this is a nice way to display comics like this. The little minifigure might be a little bit of a weird, blob that's kind of in the way of the cover art, but at least it is a cool way to display your comic book. And the comic book just comes right out, and it has that very, very iconic cover art right there. Now, some people who are not aware or have previously read this existing comic, because again, this is technically a reprint / re-release, some of you might be wondering what comic this is. Before we get into that, I did want to cover over the little minifigure first. And here is taking a look at the little Batman minifigure. Now, normally I don't really look at action figures or anything on this side of the channel. If you want more action figures and more toy-related stuff, you can check out the link in the description for my main channel. But I mostly look at comic book. I'm trying to look at more comic book stuff on this channel, but since this guy is included, I did want to look over him. The figure is made out of some nice high-quality plastic, which is pretty standard for McFarlane Toys. It's very well sculpted, almost very like statue quality, and it even has some bits of posability, and I like the bits of paint with the Bat logo, the belt, the underpants, the boots, all of it's really good. There's a tiny ball joint at the head, which allows for swiveling side to side. He can't really look up or down all that much. Ball joints at the shoulders here, which allows for rotation. That just easily pops back in. The arm can move outward that far on the ball joint. He does have little grabby hands. Not that he comes with anything to grab, but you can give him something. And then he does have a small waist swivel, which I was not expecting. And then his hips can kick forward that far. They can kick back that far. And they cannot move outward at all. So that is really it for this little Batman minifigure. It's not really, this isn't the real reason why you bought the Page Puncher. This mostly is just kind of a glorified desk toy. Now, again, very nice artwork here, and McFarlane Toys does have more of the Page Punchers. There is this Batman one, there's a Superman one, a Flash one, as well as a Black Adam, and they do have more on the way, like a Nightwing, Flashpoint Batman, and Joker, and I'll probably take a look at more of those in the future, but for right now, I just want to start with the Batman here. And again, I love this artwork, very classic. As you can see, this comic was done by Jeff Loeb, Jim Lee, and Williams. Pretty big names for DC. It begins here. Very classic comic. Everyone has seen this many times. DC logo, number 608. And if any of you are very well educated in comics, you know that this, in fact, is Hush, issue number 1. And yes, it is, in fact, Hush, issue number 1, right down to the exact same cover art and also the same exact artwork on the inside. If you've read this before, you know what it's about. But because this is my first time looking at this comic on the channel, I'll definitely be going through it more extensively. Also, just FYI, if anyone was not willing to buy the Page Puncher, but you still want the comic, technically earlier this year, as of 2022, for Batman Day, they did reprint Hush recently for Batman Day. That was also another instance that the Hush comic was also re-released this year. And also, again, the Hush series is also what gave a lot of inspiration for the Batman movie, which is one of my favorite movies ever. Let me just slide that back into my bag and board so you guys know I'm not a hack with comics. Batman narrates himself as he goes through an alleyway, unlocking locks, and one of the things I like about the comic is right here and also on the next page, it always shows off these images from Batman's perspective through his lenses. And what I like is that throughout the narration, it shows all of the different information that he's able to identify each of these different crooks. It definitely is a good aspect for his detective work. Obviously, Batman's not going through these guys for no reason. He's trying to go after them because they have a hostage during this situation. And the hostage in this situation is this boy. But obviously, at this point in the comic, no one actually knows who this boy is. But of course, if you've read this before, you already know. And there it is, that classic money shot right there. Oh yeah. Hush. The Ransom. Part 1. And again, Batman narrates as he saves the boy from the hostage situation. Also, one little thing here, I also liked how DC included this cheeky little Superman reference, how Batman mentions about Clark, and how he probably would have just, bent some steel and flew out of there, and how Batman really has to get in deep and really have to get his hands dirty with this kind of stuff. But I just thought it was a cool reference, how it kind of makes everything feel interconnected. And I have to admit, I like this version of Killer Croc here. Normally, I wasn't really that big of a fan of Killer Croc when he had a really short snout or when he had gray skin, but this interpretation of Killer Croc is pretty well done, I'd say. He is a little bit exaggerated. I still prefer the Arkham version of Killer Croc as my definitive Killer Croc, but this one isn't that bad of a design the more I think about it. Also, I like these speech bubbles they gave Killer Croc. Very unique looking. They have a lot of depth to them. Let me know in the comments below, are these advertisements the exact same ones, or are they brand new ones? Because it seems a little redundant if you just put old ads in a re-release of a comic. But anyway, I also like that the comic isn't afraid to have little bits of blood here and there. It's not super gory, but it just gives it that sense of realism. One of the things I've always loved about Batman comics is that with all the sound effects and everything, the artists have always done a great job at really interpreting fight scenes. I really like how it almost feels animated in your eyes. Like you can almost put the pieces together and kind of form an animation in your head or through your mind's eye in a way. And again, I'm not really going to go through the entire comic page by page by page because again, you really can just... I don't want to go through the entire comic bit by bit. I'll probably save that for its own entire separate video as a read-through or where I dub over it with some voiceovers. So that'll be in its own entire thing. This is more like a comic book review of its own, not really going through the whole story. But anyway, again, the artwork and everything is really well done, and I really like how they really interpret a lot of the choreography and fights. Edward, be quiet. I thought that was kind of funny. Again, I like how they're showing off from Batman's perspective of all the heat vision here, and it's got his grapple gun going. Again, this is all really classic Batman stuff, and it might seem a little redundant to you guys that I'm going through this page by page by page when some of you have probably already read this so many times at this point. There's Catwoman, by the way. But I really like comics, and I wanted to show off some of my love for some of the comics that I have read, and this is definitely one of my favorite Batman comics that I ever have read. And again, I like how they really have this perspective shot of the artwork. I love the shading and everything on this particular image of Batman right there. That is definitely really good. Another money shot, in my opinion. Again, some more advertisements. I'm pretty sure these are older advertisements, but they look new. Again, let me know in the comments down below. And again, the artwork here looks pretty good, and surprisingly, Batman actually falls, which I thought was an interesting little thing there, but again, it adds that sense of realism. Kind of reminds me of that scene from the Batman movie when Batman was using his glider and he fell on the ground. Kind of makes him a little bit vulnerable there, kind of shows you that he still is human. And then finally, we get the reveal that Catwoman was stealing for Poison Ivy, obviously, and that is how the comic ends, with Poison Ivy, and then the classic... "To be continued." So yeah, very nice comic here. There's the Batman Hush, the other, comic logo, or cover art, I mean. And then it advertises about the Killing Joke. Yeah, I'm starting to suspect that these are older advertisements because it's got the Killing Joke advertised here, unless this is another reprint advertisement. And then on the back, it talks about the DC Universe Infinite, the comic library of epic proportions, and explored the multiverse. That is really it for the Hush issue number 1, Batman Page Puncher. Overall, I think the comic is really well done. I really like a lot of the artwork in here. I mean, again, it's just a classic comic, and there's not really any way that I could emphasize enough that this is just one of the best Batman comics ever. And I'm not just talking about this particular issue, I'm talking about the entire series of Hush, because I have read the entire series all the way through. I just wanted to specifically talk about the Page Puncher, because they recently reprinted it, and so it's just this comic that is available. Obviously, all the other ones are kind of hard to get your hands on now. But overall, I love the comic. I like a lot of the artwork by Jim Lee, and everyone who put their work into this. You definitely can see it. I just wish that we were able to get more of some of this in the Batman movie. Maybe we will in the future installments of the franchise. But overall, I think this is definitely an issue and a page puncher worth picking up if you have not owned the original Batman Hush. So anyway, if I had to give a rating to this comic, I give it a solid 9 out of 10. So anyway, that's basically it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed my first comic video. It's kind of a weird thing that I'm doing now, but anyway, that's basically it for this video. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I'll catch you guys next time.